Lines, squares, and columns? No, it's not an evil mix of geometry and accounting. Oh, and meet the man after whom the era is named. In the game, we have 4 primary types of units that represent the major elements that were involved in a Napoleonic battle. We have our leader or personality counters. That represents generals and other persons that were involved in the battle, whether they're named or whether they're just a aide-de-camp to one of the generals. Then we have our infantry, and we either have line infantry or we have sometimes light infantry. Sometimes there's some specialized infantry units like sappers. Then we have our cavalry, which can either be heavy cavalry or light cavalry. And finally we have our artillery, which can either be horse-drawn artillery or our foot artillery. The personality counters don't have any combat capabilities, and they are marked then with 0 for no increments. And then the other factor in this case is their movement. So this particular person can move at 9 movement points per turn. If we turn the other side of the counter, we'll see who the name of this general is. And it's none other than Napoleon I. In the upper left-hand side, you see that he has a 12 bonus for infantry combat. On the lower left, he has 4 bonus to cavalry combat. To the upper right, a 12 bonus to artillery combat, and then a morale value of A for automatic, which means that anybody who's stacked with him automatically recovers their morale. Most leaders don't have anything quite that stupendous, and they'll have a bonus of maybe +2, +3, +5, +6 to help with their units making a morale check. This is a line infantry unit, and in the upper left you can see information that tells you what regiment it's part of, and other information to let you know organizationally what it belongs to. You can see that this particular unit has 7 increments, so it's approximately 700 men. It has 8 movement points, and if we look at the back, we can see the factors that are involved there. It has 8 fire value when in general order, or using its column value when it's in column. It has 17 melee factors and a morale of 23. Now, when a unit like this is facing a hex side, like it currently is, it would be considered to be in column if it's in a clear terrain hex like this. If the unit is turned to face towards a hex vertex, that is the corner of a hex, then it's considered in line in clear terrain such as this. Now, this unit could also have other types of formations. One that it might have would be forming square. So if it's attacked by cavalry and it forms square, you would put a marker on it indicating that it is in that formation. Other thing that happens frequently to the units is that they are in an involuntary type of formation, which would be either disorder and marked with a disorder counter, or marked with the plus grande disorder, which lets you know that this unit is routed, and that's a different type of morale condition for that unit. Now this is a light infantry unit. For the French, they are a particular color. They're mostly blue tops and blue bottoms, depending on which game you might have. They also have this little horn on them that indicates that they're a light infantry unit. This one has 6 increments and a movement factor of 9. And these units can either be in line formation, column formation, general order, but they can also adopt a special formation called skirmish order. That would be represented by having them turned upside down, facing a hex vertex. And these types of units are, you know that they're a light unit because they have a range of 2 marker indicated here. These units can fire at units that are adjacent to them and also units that are 2 hexes away. This is how they are notated. Here we have a dragoon regiment. This is a type of heavy cavalry. Most of the time, the heavy cavalry is denoted by having a movement value of 12 or less. As with the infantry, the information in the upper section indicates what organization it belongs to. In this case, it looks like the 2nd Cavalry Corps. Tells you what it's the 17th Dragoons. It has 7 increments, and it has a movement factor of 11. When it's engaged in activities, combat, morale check, you can get the information off the back. This does not have a fire value. It has a melee value of 25 and a morale value of 22. Now this is a Hasar Regiment. This is a light cavalry. As with the others, the numbers and information up in the upper section tell you what organization it's with. This particular one has 9 increments and a movement value of 14. Just as with the infantry, the cavalry can be either in column formation, which is how it is now, facing towards a hex side, or it can be in line formation, turned sideways facing a hex vertex. Sometimes cavalry and other infantry units can be in 2 hexes, in which case they would be straddling hex side to let you know that they are in 2 hex sides. Depending on what rule you're playing, oftentimes the light infantry can also go into, light cavalry can go into a skirmish order. If they have this little number in parenthesis, that lets you know that it can be in skirmish order. That's its skirmish factor. And when it's making attacks using that skirmish factor, it has a factor of 4. It has then a melee value of 29 and a morale of 16. So these guys are a pretty elite group of hussars. Now this is a battery of horse artillery, similar to the other units. The designation of who it belongs to and who it is in the upper section. This has 2 increments, and it has a movement factor of 10. When artillery is limbered, that is, it's in its movement mode, this is how it is, face up like this. When it unlimbers, that is to fire, it's turned upside down, showing its details on the back. In this particular case, at short range, this gun has 14 fire value. Medium range, it has 6 fire value, and at long range, 3 fire value. The number here in the upper right is that's maximum range. So in this case, it has a range of 8. It has a morale value of 16 and a melee value of 2. Now the foot artillery is not significantly different from the horse artillery except for its movement capacity. It is also represented in its limbered state by being face up, and its unlimbered state by being turned face down with the information on the front side. Usually artillery is in a formation like this, where it has 3 front hex sides, these ones here facing towards this. If artillery is stacked with an infantry unit, as such, it will adopt whatever formation the infantry unit's in. So if the infantry unit is in column, it will be in column. If the infantry unit is in line, then the artillery unit will be in line and have a front facing in these 2 hexes. If the infantry unit is in square, well, then the artillery unit's going to be in square also. The artillery just adopts the same formation as the infantry unit. Now this might not be an unusual type of situation to have your units arranged in. We have some cavalry out on our flanks here and here. We have our artillery unlimbered, ready to attack or fire upon our enemy. We've got our line infantry in line, ready to exchange fire. And then we have our light infantry unit here in skirmish order to fire upon enemies or to shield the line infantry from incoming fire.